Thanks for tuning in. This is Sunday Recap, a weekly edition of the Grace Bible Church podcast, where we talk about life and faith based off of our sermon this past Sunday. For sermon recordings, for more podcasts, to submit any questions or comments you might have, visit bgrace.org/podcast. For more information about Grace Bible Church, visit bgrace.org. I'm Joey Clone, one of the assistant pastors here.
I'm Chris Webster, the assistant pastor of Congas and Computers.
I'm Dave McMurray, teaching pastor.
All right, we made that through pretty simple.
Did it.
Well, we are late today, so we apologize. We were in Austin at a little meetup. I don't know. We were somewhere doing something. And so
it's a secret.
Very descriptive.
That's my goal. Descriptions.
Yes.
Make sure we're clear and everything's good.
The assistant pastor of Vagaries.
Vagaries. All right. I'll go with that. All that to say, I'm not super prepared because I actually wasn't even here yesterday. So
Whoa.
I have notes from Thursday. And Thursday you went for 35 minutes. And I won't talk about time, but you went for 55 minutes. In second service, at least on the podcast.
Yep. I think that's the longest. I can't remember, but, hitting an hour, that's about the longest I've ever preached, ever.
Well, that happened.
Yep.
So that means you added at least 20 minutes of content as long as you didn't remove anything else that you already talked about. So so I don't really actually know a lot of things you said. I tried to listen. Well, that sounds horrible that way.
I tried to listen.
I thought about listening in the car ride back from Austin, but I chose to kind of just zone out instead.
I thought you meant like you tried to listen and then you got sick to your stomach and couldn't listen anymore.
Yes, that's why I mean it probably could sound bad.
Just more Dave to love, and this podcast is going to be 2 hours long. So.
Oh wow!
Just
I
kidding.
hope not.
It's not.
I'm not
I got
prepared.
places to go, man.
I'm
not prepared for that.
I'm going to change the channel if that happens.
Yes.
The channel?
Yep.
I guess.
What are you listening on?
I don't know. Do you watch it on TV? On the radio?
I do.
A channel?
I watch it on the radio.
We're on 99.7 if you want to tune in. I'm hoping that's not
in Ding Dong, Texas.
I'm hoping that's not a radio station. Well, we're in Titus chapter 2, the second half of it, verse 9 through verse 15. And is there coffee everywhere?
Almost.
Okay.
No, I didn't spill it.
Okay,
It
good.
just sloshed. It went
Right into the USB port.
Yeah. That's fine, right? Aren't USB ports waterproof?
Yeah, that's what it stands for.
Focus, boy. Focus. This is the kind of action they tune in for, is Dave almost spilling his coffee.
Yeah.
All right.
Titus chapter 2, looking at verse 9 through 15. Your title on Thursday was Power to Change, and it still is?
Yes.
Still is.
Still is, Joey.
What are you doing here? Look at that. You see that, people? I try and fix him, and he just... All right. Power to Change. And on Thursday, your first point was grace changes our work.
Yes. Check.
On Thursday, your second point was grace changes our lifestyle.
Check.
And on Thursday, your third point was grace changes our authority.
Changed it.
Changed it
Guess
to...
what I changed it to, Joey?
Okay, I have to guess. Authority are... Oh, I hope you change it to commission.
Commission.
Yeah.
I have a brilliant assistant pastor that served in the U.S. Army, and he suggested I use the word commission, and I used it, and I got some appreciation from some soldiers.
Did you get any negative feedback?
No, I got mostly positive
cool,
feedback,
cool.
and I was like, well, I'm glad you liked it, because I'm always scared when I use military language, because I feel like I'm going to mess it up, because we have a church full of military folk.
Cool. Oh, I'm glad you used commission.
Yep.
It was good.
Thank you.
Well, I'm
Chris said
excited.
it was good, too.
Excited to talk about that.
As a civilian, I appreciated it. Go
You
ahead.
civilian. No, I'm just trying to push us forward because it
Yep.
seems like we're apt
behind.
to
Hurry.
not stay on track today. So,
Okay.
Yep.
I guess you started out. Well, I feel like it's not fair for me to really lead this discussion since I wasn't here yesterday and haven't listened fully through even one time. But in our Church Is Not What You Think series, on Thursday you started talking about good news kind of equals the gospel, which kind of equals grace, and that's what led you to grace being the power to change. I don't know. Tell us about why the power to change, I guess, because power and changing isn't really in this text. You had to get that out, right?
Yep. So it's a power to change is basically taking verse 11 and formulating a question, right? So a lot of times we want to say, like, what is the problem that this text is addressing? And so what's the issue? What's the problem? Well, we can't change ourselves. And in context of Titus, the ways that people have tried to change their circumstances, hearts, or feelings is through wild disobedience or through legalistic religion, the party of the circumcision. So kind of with that as the framework of Titus, those are the two ways we try to change, but neither one of those are the true power to change. Verse 11 says, "For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people." In verse 12, training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives.
So I have a question right off the bat on that. How often do you think people... So sorry, in and out. But yeah, you had that question. Are you trying to change what is broken in your own life based on your own strength? Do you think people realize that's what they're doing? Or, I guess...
No.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So that's really kind of step one is, do you even realize that's what you're doing when you're doing certain things? Anyway, that's just a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people do. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah,
Eventually, maybe you do. The longer you live, the more you realize, man, I'm trying to cover up something, or I'm trying to run away from something.
I think a lot of people would say, absolutely, that's what I should do. Yeah. I got to fix this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From last week, I was just thinking more and more like, when you go to your therapist, like you wouldn't go to a therapist without knowing you had something to talk about. But
yeah.
But then sometimes I really think there's even people don't go deep enough to where like I want to solve the problem. I just want to stop feeling this bad about it. You know, I don't want to be healed. I want to not be numb. So
yeah.
Anyway, interesting. Cool. That was just a thing I wondered about.
A wonderment.
So you're saying, so that's the question we should ask ourselves. Are we trying to change what is broken in our own lives based on our own strength, or relying on God's grace? And so then we dive into what that looks like and what,
I wonder if another question too could be like, are you even trying to change? Are you even recognizing brokenness? Right. That's even a level before that.
Totally. Do you feel broken at all, or
do you feel the world is broken?
We do. I do.
We do. I do. We will.
We shall.
No, I mean that's really true too, and you brought up kind of conversations about Celebrate Recovery, and that is a big deal, the denial part, because most of the time when you're in denial, you don't realize you're in denial. You're just saying, nope, nothing's wrong, I don't need to change. So that has to be this process of, oh, there are things wrong, and there are things that need to change, and then the next question is how.
Yeah. I mean, and so generally, maybe this is a fair generalization. If you're rebelling and saying, forget you, God, that's probably more of a denial issue. Well, I guess religion is too. Yeah. I mean, I think either way, you can know what you're doing or be completely oblivious to it. Whether you're pursuing change of, getting drunk. Like, you could either know exactly what you're doing when you're doing that. Like, my life is unmanageable. I'm going to get drunk so I don't have to think about it. Or you might just not even realize. I think some people don't even stop to think about what they're doing.
So there's this place of kind of healthy honesty about what you're doing and why, but it doesn't even necessarily get past that to the solution always. So you're calling us to recognize the only way to change is by God's grace. But then we say, well, what does that change? What does that change even look like?
And I wonder too, and I don't know if you address this or not, but I wonder a little bit, grace changes our work, grace changes our lifestyle, grace changes our commission. That somewhat implies like a one-time change. It changed it, now it is forever changed, which is true, but is it also somewhat applicable to grace is continually changing our work, grace is continually changing our life, continually changing our commission?
I think so. I mean, on an ongoing basis, most of us on the work category, we all find ourselves in work and continually struggle with this is hard, or that frustrates me, or this is broken, and I can either steal or I can give. I can disrespect or I can submit. And so I think the commands of submission and being pleasing and not being argumentative, not stealing, adorning the doctrine of God through our work. I think that's an ongoing struggle for all of us. I mean, I don't think anybody would say, now I always do it right. I hope not. I hope nobody would say that. Maybe they do. Maybe somebody.
We want to be able to, and that's back to the abide in me and my word abides in you. We do want to graduate. We want to say, I got to get this skill under my belt. I've graduated. Now I am this thing,
Yeah.
I am changed, and I'll never look back, and I'll never slip back into my bad habits. And
Wouldn't that be nice?
But then, guess what? We wouldn't need God. We'd be our own perfect saviors.
Now, on point 1, which was the work point, I was asked to clarify something. So I don't know if we're ready for that yet.
Let's go. Let's dive in.
Well, I was going to say, let's go. Grace changes our work. I was going to give us a start into it, but you go ahead. Start us into grace changing our work.
Well, I talked specifically about the struggle that some people have with the phrase being argumentative. Some people are really good at pointing out what's broken, and I kind of joked about it at the 9 a.m. service. I think I was a little more serious and careful at the 10:45 service.
Yeah, you were.
Did you hear me both?
Oh no, I just the second one.
Yeah.
Your disclaimer. I was like, well,
Did
you
you get
really?
called? You got called out after the first service?
Yeah.
I didn't. I just kind of felt bad about wow, the entire congregation is laughing at people that think everything is broken. Anyway, I don't think anybody's feelings were hurt. I just felt like I needed to reel it in a little bit. But kind of my 2 points were, if this is your gift, it is really a gift. It's a gift. People that recognize the things that are broken, that is a gift. And then it's hard to navigate how to use that gift at work. If you're told to always be pleasing and not argumentative, but your gift is noticing all the things that are broken, that can be really confusing. So should I just never say anything, or
Finding your job?
Yeah. So I said, you take that gift of seeing what's broken and what can be improved, which most people I know that are like that, it's constantly bombarding them. They see it everywhere all the time, right? And so I said, the clues in the text are submission. So is it mission critical? Does it really matter in the end to achieve the mission? Or is it just one more thing that's broken? Because we live in a world where everything's broken. And then, is it in your jurisdiction? And those are 2 areas I said that I thought was helpful. Person asked me, can you comment on that? Because I'm one of those kind of people, and I give you a lot of feedback at church. So were you talking? I think they were implying, are you talking about me?
Yes.
Am I overstepping? Yeah, and I don't think so, dear listener, dear watcher. I wasn't thinking about you. I was just thinking really more about you and everyone else that has that gift, how to find personal peace and ongoing focus for that gift. I wasn't thinking, you're making my life miserable. So I did joke something like, I know you have that gift because you tell me everything that's broken. You know what I mean? So I joked about it you tell me, and maybe that made it sound and I hate it and I don't want to hear it anymore. And I didn't mean it like that. I just mean, I know it's a struggle for people like that, and we love you, and it truly is a gift. And it's just not a gift to be employed on everything all the time. So, anyway, the specific person that asked me, I think you're doing a pretty good job. And in general, I think, you look at things, you pray about it, and you say, I think this would really help my boss do their job better, or I think it would really help our organization fulfill their mission more effectively. Then bring it up.
Well, whoever you are, don't let it be said that this podcast isn't just for you.
Yeah.
Well, one little thing I would tack on too is just practically, are you offering some solutions, and are you doing the hard work of going beyond just, hey, that's broken, but here's a way to fix it.
That's really good.
So,
yeah. Offer some options.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like sometimes that's a cop-out. That boss are don't bring me problems unless you have a solution. It's this isn't something that it's my job to have a solution for. So I think sometimes that can be overused.
So maybe be ready, but it's not like you have to have it to speak up kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's kind of the land of, it's always easier to break something down than to build it up. So I think I think aiming at being a builder in whatever way you can, and in whatever way you're able to. That's because I could tend to be like that. I notice problems is what I sometimes see it as, and it's not even necessarily like that feeling of 1,000 things are wrong, but I do say, oh, that's probably shouldn't be that way, and that's what I think. Like, will this be helpful? And here's some ideas towards a solution, so it's not just me adding a weight to you. It is a. But yeah, you're right. Sometimes that's totally not what you need to do. Maybe that's more military. I don't know, but yeah.
No. Well, you talked in the section. I'll read you just some of my notes from Thursday, and you tell me what highlights. What pops out. Slavery versus bondservant. Not called to lead an earthly revolution. Revolution. Called to, and then it doesn't say any other words, so I didn't catch the end of it. What's the end of that phrase? Do you know?
Love Jesus.
Called to of Jesus. Okay, cool.
Love Jesus.
Oh, love Jesus.
Grace. I don't remember.
Grace enables you to actually work differently. You still have to be submissive in the role you are in. Grace enables us to be a servant, working heartily to the glory of God, adorning the gospel. And then you talked about editing work. Did you actually talk about that?
No,
in this
throughout
section?
that illustration. I switched to a tandem bicycle.
Okay. Tell me about it. We went from editing work.
So
being
Thursday
an
I had
editor.
the idea of being an editor. And so if you're an editor, your job is to point out what's wrong for the purpose of the writer's voice being heard clearly and beautifully. So I think
you're not rebelling against the author. You're helping them say
you're helping them
what
say
they want more clearly.
Yeah. And you know what? Even as we talk about that illustration again, I think, dang, that was a good illustration. It was brilliant.
Chris
But
is the one who wanted to cut
dear
it. I said keep it
listener,
in.
dear
I'm just
watcher,
saying.
Chris didn't like it. I should have probably listened to Joey on this one.
I love this
please.
podcast.
We're here to make fun of Chris.
Well,
But
because when you're talking about the message of God, it doesn't really need editing. So that was a weird.
No, this is the
little
message of Dave. We were
Yeah.
editing the message of Dave.
Got it. I was there to help you, Dave.
thank you. So I went with tandem bicycle for Sunday and talked about, it's kind of hard to ride a tandem bicycle if you've ever done it. Have you all ever done it?
I don't think I have.
you ever
I've ridden one of those ones where like 3 people sit in the front and 3 people in the back, and it's like almost like a car,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Like,
which is basically the same thing.
yeah, similar. Well, those can be difficult.
similar.
Those can be difficult to steer and unify. But in this picture, they were literally going different directions. Opposite directions.
Tandem bike going different directions.
Which is
That's a real
absurd
picture,
and wouldn't
yeah.
work at all.
Mhm.
So it was like a more extreme, absurd object lesson. Just saying, you're trying to help support your boss. Do you make your boss feel like you're pulling in the opposite direction, or you're helping them?
So, one thing I was thinking might be interesting to converse upon is you said the work is good, but it's broken by the fall, and thorns and thistles. That's easy to leave that in Garden of Eden land of and farming land of now we have thorns and thistles literally. I was trying to think through what are the thorns and thistles. So 2 things. When we're working, I still think it's really helpful. You've kind of talked about this in other contexts of when you encounter something that is not the way it should be. It's really helpful to just say, "Man, that's wrong and broken," and this needs some gardening, metaphorically speaking. Like, how do I make this right? But not skipping over the, man, that's hard and shouldn't be that way. But just in this, maybe a quick conversation of just, I don't know, in office work, or I guess that's where kind of a lot of us find ourselves, or maybe in parenting. What are the actual modern thorns and thistles we have, and just kind of working your way through that. Does it make sense? It's kind of
I think everything that's subject to physical decay is a mark of the fall.
Interesting.
I think everything that's
Some messy rooms, is that what you're saying? No, that's something different. Sorry.
Well, sickness, death,
Plumbing.
people's bad attitudes, things breaking,
Yeah.
your computer doesn't work at work. I think all those things are thorns and thistles. I'm trying to think of, I don't know. Do you have any other ideas?
I don't know. Those all sound really rough.
It's just like there's the daily grind of, I've got my 4 things I want to accomplish today. And then there are distractions and emergencies, and I'm going to go do this thing. And then someone gets hurt You know, I have to go sing them in the hospital, and there's that disaster, disease. You know, I mean, just the brokenness of the world, getting sidetracked.
I think, and I guess I bring that up a little bit too because I guess I'm realizing there can be a double frustration of like, that's broken, I'm frustrated, but I shouldn't be frustrated, rather than maybe a little bit of a gospel thing of like, that's an okay emotion to have towards the fall, and this is like, I can just be a human and say, God help me get through this, and you don't have to just like really be annoyed at your own emotions in the moment. You can just call it out and say, oh yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's okay to feel that and to press through it, and maybe that's even helpful to help you press through it, maybe.
Well, yeah.
It's deep in psychology, maybe.
Well,
but
yeah.
go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to ask, so what does it actually look like for a worker to have grace change their work, right? So, like, we could say that all day long, and it allows you to be different and work heartily, but, like, what does that actually look like? And, I mean, the tandem bike illustration, I guess, helps some, but my imagination is most individuals aren't trying to go in the exact opposite direction of their boss. So, like, how does grace change one's work if they're, like, a normal worker who comes and does their job? Like, do they actually need grace in their work?
Yeah. I think we're selfish apart from grace. So I think we're going to suspect that our boss is out to get us and that the difficulties that you're having at work are your boss's fault. I think it's typical for us to think like an orphan. I'm not taken care of. If my boss took better care of me, I'd be happy. Or if I stole more for the company, quote unquote, you know, I think we kind of joked a little bit. Most people aren't out and out stealing, but you might be stealing time. You might be stealing mission. You might be stealing direction and unity from the organization. So I think we can go to work thinking the job's purpose is to fulfill our identity and make us feel better about ourselves and make us feel like we've accomplished something.
Huge.
And so if we actually believe that Jesus loves us, our focus comes off of our tasks, in a sense, and off of ourselves. And we actually say, oh, there's an organization and a boss for me to serve, and I am rich, and I have resources to give to them. Instead of, I think the non-gospel way is, I am needy and I've got to take, you know, like I'm showing up desperate. I got to get something out of work. I gotta feel like I accomplished something today. I got to feel like I'm taken care of by my boss today. I got to feel, you know, like we have all these kind of, we come to work needy typically.
Okay, or maybe get away with as little as possible, right?
Yeah, or I need rest, and so yeah. I mean, I think that's a big way of stealing is just coasting, you know. So like we talked about, pilfering basically means stealing, and yeah, you can just coast. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it.
I think that we've had that conversation about you call it idolatry of work. Like, yeah, it just really is a thing of like, this should satisfy me, or yeah, exactly the opposite, like you're saying of I'm gonna get away with as little as doing as little as I can, being a bad worker. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else about that one? Grace changing our work.
I guess I'm still struck with I see people also allow themselves to be abused. Like, if you're talking about the bike analogy, if you're on a normal double bike, it's like, do you allow your boss to just sit and ask you to do all the pedaling? You know, there's just this healthy tension of I'm not gonna let myself be trampled in an unhealthy way for me and my family, and I'm not gonna be lazy and ask the boss to do all the pedaling, you know, and me put up my feet. There's just a good middle ground, but I do see that. Again, you just tip into too much of an extreme. So if you take this to heart and you are a worker, a lot of guys I see can tip into workaholism and just say like, and then you get a bad boss and they're asking you to do too much and stay too late and take too much time from your family. And I think the gospel also says you need to pray about that also and say, is he expecting me to be his savior in a sense? And and that's not
Yeah,
It's
that's
not me,
tricky.
yeah.
I don't see.
That's not very common.
Well,
It may,
No.
yeah. I just had a friend who was in
I think
that.
it's pretty
so-
common.
yeah,
At least in the military. We're a military
yeah,
town.
yeah,
Well, it depends on your job and where you're at.
yeah.
There's it's very funnily both extremes.
Yeah.
Very funnily. That's a word.
In a funny
Very-
way.
It's good.
Strangely.
It's great for whatever time it is.
Funny you should bring that up.
It's 5:45 every day,
5:45.
always.
Always.
It's always 5:45 somewhere.
Well, I
yeah,
want-
both extremes. You're saying
Yeah.
you see a lot.
Yeah, in the military, you see both extremes. You see people either like trying to hide in connexes and not
Mhm.
do any work, or
Yeah.
like working till 8, 9 p.m.
I guess I
And then-
feel like because of the text is saying
Yeah.
don't, because of your newfound freedom in Christ,
Yeah.
throw off all shackles. So it's not really addressing, and what do you do when they're abusing? You know, like, so I guess I was trying to
Sure.
zero in a little more on the text. But yeah, I think I would agree. There are definitely appeals to be made, and that's biblical. And
So my first job ever, I just have to share an anecdote of that what Joey was describing though. It was like it was at a garden center, and I was like, I'm gonna learn about plants, and I'm out in it was like winter when I started, or early winter, and it was cold, and I'm like scrubbing bricks and stuff, and I'm like, where are all the other people that are like new hires? They had built there was all these stacks of fertilizer. They literally built a fort, and they were like growing illegal substances and taking naps up in their like fort
Wow.
in the bags, and I was like, I need a new job. But it was really
Wow.
weird. Like
Yep.
I was working my tail off, and they were taking a nap up in the. So there's maybe a good like two sides of how work can look. That was a funny job, man.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask before we move to the next one. What were your applications for this point? I want to.
Mhm.
I want to try and stay focused on applications.
Good call.
man, don't steal. Be agreeable. If you have things to bring up, that's why I talked about if you struggle with always seeing what's broken, make sure it's focused on what's mission critical and in your jurisdiction. And be submissive. I don't know. My notes aren't very good from what I said. I'm not sure what else I said.
That's right.
Yeah, I think those are the main things.
Just want to make sure we touched it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, point 2, grace changes our lifestyle from verse 11 and verse 12. Notes I have from Thursday, all kinds of people, appearing or epiphany. Did you talk about that? Or did you skip it?
Stop talking about stuff he didn't say. No.
I want to know.
Okay.
used
This
the word
makes it even
epiphany.
better to get
I
into what you
threw
didn't know,
out my snobby comments on the church calendar.
right? So what is epiphany? I don't even know what it is. Can you tell me? I'm giving you a...
The word or the event?
I'm throwing him a bone so he can do his epiphany bit.
All right.
there is a ancient church day on the calendar called Epiphany. What the word means, we're not going to talk about it. But what it means is appearing, and it means it in a big cosmic sense. It usually means weather, the appearance of some kind of big weather change, or the appearance of a hero or a Greek god showing up on the scene. So when that word is used of Jesus, it has kind of an epic, bigger than life concept.
Okay.
Although epic, to be clear, is not related linguistically to the word epiphany. I did look that up because I thought it should be, but it's not.
I could see how it might be. Yep.
Yeah, two different words. But
Cosmic breakthrough or hero.
hero showing up to save the day.
Any examples of that you could think of from literature? Did you give any?
No, I didn't talk about this Sunday, but one of my favorite examples from literature is "Here I come to save the day."
Literature.
It's Mighty Mouse. I think that's how it goes. Loved Mighty Mouse when I was a kid.
I did too. I did too.
So good. That baritone voice was just...
In my brain, Mighty
Beautiful.
Mouse is really closely tied to Rocky and Bullwinkle. Is that true?
Maybe the same company?
Same era
Did they just come
or
back to
something.
back or
Yeah.
Maybe they were back to back. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways.
I used to watch them on like 8mm film.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said grace changes our lifestyles, and you said two steps involved. Clarify your
Clarify grace.
understanding of God's grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Confess
And-
your sin.
Confess your sin and work on it. That's what
Yeah.
I wrote down.
Yeah. I talked about we're going to be mixed up about that if we don't understand God's grace. If we don't understand that God's grace precedes our repentance. If God's, we don't understand that God's grace is the initiative taking and the power to change us. But then we actually have to respond, and we confess our sin, and we pray for each other is basically the pattern in James 5 that I'm always trying to push people towards. We have a habit of, especially as a Bible church or Reformed churches, to say the solution to everything is to understand the truth and learn things, which is a part of it. But I think Bible studies and small groups should include this. Pray for each other that you may be healed. Confess your sins one to another dynamic in James 5. So I'm just always kind of, that's a point I come back to a lot, which I think is an important application. Then in our tribe of Christianity, it's easy to miss. We'd rather objectify, talk about what things mean, talk deep, but not share deep, I think is a struggle we have. So
I don't know what this is from. Probably an army thing. Be no do. Do you guys know be no do?
I've heard that.
Maybe
what
not.
does it mean?
I've thought it without being said exactly that way, but yeah.
I don't know what it is. Anyways, knowing something and doing something were the things that made me remember it. And then I remembered, there's another word in there, be no do. I don't know what that means. We'll have to Google it.
All right.
But knowing and doing was the point I was going on. And that kind of goes back to doctrine and devotion from last week even. But in this point, you talked about grace, which has this power to change our lifestyle. You said this grace, which appears, trains us.
Yeah.
And then he said, he appeared to help us stop sinning. Again, all this is from Thursday, so it might not be accurate for Sunday. But
yeah, I stayed pretty closely to what I said Thursday.
And then you talked about kids playing soccer.
Yeah.
Did you do it?
I kept it.
He kept it. I told him to cut it.
4-year-old
so this time
soccer
he trusted
illustration.
Chris again.
Yeah.
Dang, you just trusted Chris all week.
Hey,
you got the whole point.
You got the whole last point, baby.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
You
We're not there
rewrote
yet.
my last point.
All right, yeah, fair enough.
So I didn't you tell me to throw out Epiphany though? Or was that him?
No,
No,
that's
that was
him.
me.
I said
That's
keep
why I
it.
didn't want to talk about it.
Oh. Chris was really critical
He's like, just
of my
keep
sermon.
going. Keep going. Step
So
out.
I kept the soccer illustration, and then I added on the cure illustration of Jesus got his arm around us, helping us work on our sin, which is opposed to once I work on my sin, then Jesus will be one with me. So flipping that around is a really important part of that process. That's one of my all-time favorite illustrations. Read The Cure, people. Be ready to be made angry and know that it's weird.
And if you don't read it, they're just going to talk about it every week until you do. So keep going.
It's Chris's fault. He just read it.
What? Why is this now Chris's fault?
gonna
You're
read
the
it
one who
again.
keeps
He
talking
told
about
me
it.
to talk about it.
I love
Oh,
it.
okay.
Good job, Dave.
Fair enough. Anything else from changing our lifestyle? I guess I can ask the same question I asked about work.
Yeah.
What if you're just living kind of a normal lifestyle and you're doing decent things and you're volunteering at the soup kitchen and you're helping old ladies cross the street? I don't know.
Yeah.
How would grace change your lifestyle? What's the difference between a grace changed lifestyle and one that is just a decent lifestyle or does good things lifestyle?
So like people that don't think they need to change?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I would put myself in that category. I am a help old ladies across the street kind of person and have been for years. And I just, every day I find, the need for power to do the right thing, the need for God's grace to encourage me to love people well, to follow through on things, to repent of self-righteousness. And so, I think it's whether you're in an extreme kind of clearly rebellious lifestyle that seems to be kind of what the text is bringing up, or you're a basically decent person, I think it's still God's grace that is training you to do those things. So, if you're in process and you're like, man, I used to do these terrible things and now I'm doing some upright things, that is still God's grace redirecting you, and you'll still need ongoing grace to keep training you, to keep moving you in the right direction. We can all fall, and we can have that switch of heart motives where we start to think, I'm better than other people because I do these nice things, So I think we need God's sustaining grace no matter where we are in that process.
I was just struck too by seeing that, reading through that passage again, 11 through
14, and when you're in the middle of talking about it, live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives, renouncing ungodliness, like that can tend to sound really boring if we're honest with what the culture tells us, and what when we're talking about that can sound like be straight-laced and you know what I'm talking about. And there's this conversation happening in our literature and our films of like the rebels are the cool people, and that they're the ones having a good life, and then there's these people living in the suburbs and they're going to their churches, and and so I just feel like again, back to your epiphany language, if you look before and after that, if you can unpack some of that language more, the grace of God, whatever you said, has exploded onto the scene, bringing salvation for all people. And then now we're in this epic journey in the middle, and then we know that there's going to be this explosion of God, of Jesus coming back, and it's not going to be, you can't mistake it. It's not going to be is that him? It's going to be like, no, that's him. Like, and so I think we just need each other to remind how exciting and hopeful and beautiful it is, instead of this drudgery of, okay, choose the boring thing again. Like there has to be this just God's changing our hearts and continuing to, like you talked about, being amazed by Jesus along the way, and for the joy set before us. And we do have to do mundane things, but our story is not mundane. Does that make sense? Like when we look backwards and forwards, and we even keep our eyes open in this moment, we need each other to remember this is exciting stuff. Like this is good. This is better. And don't fall for the trap that, like, man, if I could just, break out of this routine for a second, that's what will really make me happy. If I could, Does that make sense? Any more thoughts on that? Like, yeah. Thank you, Admiral Akbar. I don't know anymore. Like, how do you, what, I mean, I know that songs like the songs of Andrew Peterson do that for me. And I'd still even find myself saying, like, is it really this exciting? Is it really, is it the being portrayed correctly in this art? But what keeps you excited and not just feeling like, I gotta beat down my adventurous heart and do this boring.
Well, I think your application is leading to that answer, right? Your application for this point, if I'm accurate, is clarify your understanding of grace, right? Do you think that you're saving yourself? Do you think, if I do everything mundane, it saves myself, or if I do everything right, it saves myself, right? That's what keeps it from being, I don't know. Yeah. Mundane's the right word.
Yeah, I guess I'm talking about like, it's not save or not save. It's, man, we all want to be caught up in a bigger, exciting story. That's where a lot of our idolatry comes from, is we want what we perceive to be most beautiful. We're chasing after what we believe to be most profound and most beautiful. And so I'm trying to hold on that the explosive power of a new affection. Like, so how are we doing this continued saying, like, man, guys, this is how amazing we get to do this. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I'm not there. I'm living in a time of life where there's, like, more deep sleep and restful nights. My kids are all grown up. So, like, I'm in probably a different phase of life. I'm not feeling like it's all drudgery.
it's comfortable. It's
yeah. So I mean,
yeah.
I'm probably facing a different temptation than you're facing at this point of life. So.
I think I am kind of asking for the younger generations, single, whatever, out of college, like looking for an adventure, and is following Jesus that adventure.
Yeah, and I just saw the movie About Time, which is, we'll say, questionable, dear listener, dear watcher.
Sure, yeah.
It's not. I think it's R-rated, right? It's R-rated, but anyway, it's not.
I have no clue.
Anyway, it's got things that will definitely offend people. But the story is amazing, and that what you're talking about is a major piece of the story. This learning to appreciate the mundane and see the wonder in it and the glory and the beauty in it.
Yeah.
So back to Joey's point, it's not just do the mundane and save yourself. You'll find the mundane, you'll find the glory by doing the mundane. I don't think that's how you get there. I think it's God's grace, clarifying your understanding of God's grace is what enchants the mundane. The mundane can only be enchanted if you really believe God loves you, right? Like if God's like looking over your shoulder like, isn't this awesome? Then that's going to make you think like, this is nuts, but there's something somehow awesome about this.
Yeah.
And again, it's been a long time since I changed a diaper, so obviously I have a different perspective. I am at that point where I'm looking back.
Come on over.
I know
It's coming.
when I
Come
see
back.
y'all's little children being naughty, it's way cuter to me than it is to y'all.
It's not cute.
Well, and I think actually coming full circle to this passage, that's exactly the point of what he's saying.
Yeah.
Is look at the whole story
Right,
again.
right.
And like, you take
cosmic.
any work, any great story that we love to sit down in a movie and take an hour and a half, or read a book and take a week or whatever.
So you're
One moment in the middle of that is terrible, and that hero is not happy.
Well, and
just
just
not having fun.
to really get back into the nitty gritty of like how we approach this and how we communicate these things.
Sure. Yep.
That's why it's good to preach the whole Bible, and that's why it's good to see it from different perspectives.
Yeah.
For me, probably because of my abandonment issues, the idea of God being with me is so overwhelmingly amazing. That enchants everything. So when I say that and I preach that, that's probably for me like, don't you get it?
You get
God
chills.
is with you.
Yes,
I get chills.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you're saying, people long for this thing. I'm like, dude, I said that. God is with you.
good, yeah.
It's there, but I realize that probably connects with different people in different way,
Sure.
So for me, that is the thing.
Maybe
And
if you let him talk about Epiphany, you better understand
you should have
what
gone
he's
back
talking
to
about
the
here.
church calendar.
But your second part of your application was
Yeah.
so first clarify your understanding of grace. Do you think you're saving yourself, or do you think you're making your own adventure, building your own adventure? And your second part is to take steps in accordance with that. So you talked about things like confession, like asking for prayer, like walking in a new direction, like joining small groups, like doing Celebrate Recovery. Other points of application that I missed?
No, that's basically it. Yeah, I mean, so do this thing that I would call kind of biblically and friendship directed community, or biblical directed and friendship directed, or community directed confession and repentance. I don't know how to put all those things together.
You said a lot of things.
Yeah, sorry.
My brain went.
Bible, community, confession, and prayer. 4 elements. So I kept hitting the confession and prayer. James 5, is confess and pray for one another that you may be healed. That can't work. The one another doesn't work unless there's community. And then it's in context of biblically, like, you're not going to confess anything unless you're reading the Bible. So those things are kind of assumed. But you've got to do that. And so for me as a pastor, I'm always saying, you've got to do that. Maybe that's with a buddy over coffee. Maybe you join a small group. Maybe you're in Celebrate Recovery. Those are places where that can happen. But we've got to do that. And we won't survive if we're not doing that. That might be just a really close Christian friendship you've got. It might be a small group. It might be a Sunday school class. And we've all had experiences where those kinds of groups, that has happened. And we've all had experiences where those kind of groups, it's kind of like, we scratched the surface, but we didn't really go deep. So I think you've got to keep pressing for that in a relationship somewhere in your life.
I wanted to cross-reference on confession too. Actually ran across this on Sunday as the worship team was getting ready. So kind of, anyway, long story, but I try to pray a psalm a day. And so this kind of the psalm of the day in this situation was 32, and it really hit me, and I've been trying to pass this along to others too. Confession can feel like a just get my guilt taken care of kind of a moment versus a running to God, throwing off the weight that hinders you so that you can run and so that you can enjoy the presence of God more fully. Does that make sense? Like, so less of a just here's what I did wrong, and more of a, God, I'm coming to you because you can heal what made me even want to do that. Anyway, this just really fit with that perfectly. I want to just share it real quick. Psalm 32:1 says, "Blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man against whom the Lord counts no iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no deceit. For when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long." So that's that not confessing, right? But then it ends with this. This section ends on verse 7 says, "You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance." And so I just want to keep helping people see this more beautiful picture of confession, that it's, let's go towards shouts of deliverance, guys. It's not just, let's keep talking about what we did wrong. Let's press into God for victory. And so I just think that's a thing I need to hold on to, because confession can feel fully negative without remembering the goal of confession, which is closeness of God and victory. And yeah,
that makes sense.
Well, grace changes our commission.
Commission.
Do it. Joey's point.
Tell me.
Trademark.
Tell me what a commission is. What's a commission?
A commission, Joey, is when the president says, "Joey, I want you to go fight the bad guys for me."
In the United States Army, a commission is. Okay.
Yeah, and he writes that on a piece of paper, and then he gives you that piece of paper.
And it looks cool and ancient.
And then you get a uniform
and
a gun.
A sword.
And biblically, there's a parallel. And
you sound like you're falling apart here.
He's doing it on purpose. Parallel. Everybody laugh at me. Parallel.
He barely reacted, but I got him to react a little bit.
Thanks for tuning into the Inside Joke podcast.
I chose to not respond to it ever
There was a
again.
twitch.
I've made that decision.
You had
in
a
my
twitch.
life.
You have a little towel. Yeah.
Listen back to episode 5 or something for that.
Yeah, probably.
So I quoted 3 cross references: Psalm 130 verse 8, Ezekiel 37:23, Deuteronomy 14:2. Deuteronomy. But there are all these quotes about the people for possession and the redeeming this people, and I'm saving this people, and I'm purifying this people, and I'm fixing this people, and it's all this language in the Old Testament that talks about God forming, shaping, fixing, renewing this people that He's creating. And we are that people. Like, we are that commissioned people in the new covenant. And sorry to my classic dispensationalist friends, but we are the people of God. And so just recognizing we are this prophetic fulfillment. God's commissioned us to be a part of fixing the world, bringing His kingdom to come. We're ambassadors. We're spokesmen. We're a nation of priests. We're these kings and queens and, daughters and sons of the God of the universe. And so just recognizing that new identity and the authority that goes with it, I think. And that's part of what Joey helped me come up with Thursday. I was like, it's identity, but it's authority. I said authority Thursday. It's like, but authority's kind of weird, because most of the language in verse 15 was about the authority of, like, Titus as a leader. It was like, but there's all the stuff in verse 14 that's more about the identity of the entire people of God. So I kind of wanted to weight it more to the people of God authority. Like, what is that authority we have as the people of God? So Joey suggested commission, which is like you're officially sent out as an ambassador, representative of the Lord. So there you go. That's all I have on that.
That's good.
There's a bunch of other cross references.
And that's all I have to say about that.
It sounds exciting to me. We were just talking about that. That sounds pretty exciting. I realize also we're the rebels. We're the ones that are turning away from the easy.
Are you saying the Empire did nothing wrong?
Oh gosh, not everything is Star Wars.
Oh.
I was about to say Star Trek just to make you twitch, but
I probably wouldn't care. I don't know Star Trek, so I wouldn't have got it.
Lecrae had a song back in like the 80s about that too. And it was really good. So
okay, good.
called
Thanks
Rebel.
for that. Google it, people.
Google it. It's good.
Rebel.
So, what do you mean we're rebels?
Well, sorry. So I was just tying together like everything you were just saying is that moment of, oh yeah, this is amazing. We're kings and queens. We're ambassadors.
We're setting people free from the zombie.
Yeah. Yes.
world we
So
live in.
yeah. So we're the ones who, talking about where the culture is saying, well, rebelling from morality is exciting. They say, oh yeah, throwing off the chains of Christian morality basically is where you'll find excitement. But we're realizing we're throwing off the chains of darkness, and we're the one, like, the default is the sin. It's not, it's not stodgy morality, but we're turning from that, and we're getting to do this exciting thing that is countercultural, is counter flesh. And so that's what I mean, like, that's there's some of that. This should be exciting to us kind of language. So
Yeah.
Did
Did you talk about junior welcome team members? Did you cut it?
I cut it.
Out.
Yeah.
How did you cut so much and still go 55 minutes long?
I have an amazing ability to talk for a long period of time. It's a growing gift that I seem to be getting better at every week. I don't know what is
Does it have
wrong.
anything to do with the broken clock on the stage?
It must be. That's what it is.
Scapegoat.
I really want to know.
clock's
Do you actually
fault.
look at the clock? Or
I do
no?
not look at the
Okay.
clock.
I told
here's the
Chris you don't
crazy
look at the
thing.
clock, but
So, dear listener, dear watcher,
can we have a phrase for that instead?
I
Like, dear
have-
listener, dear watcher. Please.
watcher sounds like that creepy, like, angel Book of Enoch thing. Anyway,
How about just don't speak to them ever? They don't exist.
okay, I'm forgetting you watchers. I'm just going to talk to the listeners.
That's what I meant.
Keep going.
Where was I? What was I saying?
The
I've
clock.
been getting longer and longer as I've been working on it more. Like something's going wrong. Like the universe is imploding. I don't know what's happening, but I use a timer. I never used to use a timer. I practice it. I never used to practice it. We talk about it afterwards, and I get publicly shamed about it. I never used to get publicly shamed about it. Like all these things you would think would help me. Like
Yeah. We would think that probably.
the only explanation I have is I think I'm enjoying it more than I used to.
It needed to be said, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm just having more fun up there than I used to.
You do
But-
have to go hug the nursery director every time you do it. though.
It's the problem. Yeah, I mean, this week I was like, all right, we just hit a breaking point here. So
It really was good. But yeah, I hear you.
This next week we're doing no music, just sermon. Walk in and we'll
Alright,
say,
man, I'm
"Welcome
taking
to
a-
grace."
I'm
Yeah.
taking a nap.
Open your Bibles,
Good.
Titus chapter
Well-
3.
when I joined Acts 29 years ago, that was like a thing that was real common. A lot of the famous preachers, like guys like Matt Chandler, would preach forever. But I would always tell other guys in Acts 29, like, you're not Matt Chandler. You can't do, that's not okay. You can't do that. It's just not, people's attention spans can't handle it.
So we need people to hold signs in the audience
Yeah.
that say you're not Matt Chandler.
Yeah,
and then you'll stop on time.
No,
Exactly.
he's that good now. He is Matt
Oh,
Chandler. Yeah,
that's the
you do it.
application.
You just need. Okay, go ahead.
Application.
I don't know. Oh, yeah, sure. Application. I have, and this is probably not accurate. Declare it to yourself. You have authority, commission. Rebuke the voices in your head. Preach the gospel to yourself. Preach the gospel to your friends. Invite others to hear these things.
That's it.
All right.
Okay,
Nailed it.
I probably took a little longer to say it than you did just now, but yes.
Really, huh? Who would have thought?
You said one sentence that I liked a lot too.
Just one.
Yeah, I said two also, as well as all the other sentences. You said the church has leaders. Well, basically you said the church has leaders, but we're also all called to lead. I just think that is such a huge thing for us to own as followers of Christ.
Should I say that again? I
Like-
was looking at my phone. What did I say?
Click that
you
jump
said the
back 30
church-
seconds button.
Basically, the church has leaders that are called to lead the body of Christ,
Mm-hmm.
but also we're all called to be leaders. And I just really, that's a passion I have for just everyone in the church to say, where am I called to step out and lead? I am called to step out and lead someone, whether that's a non-Christian next door, maybe whether that's my kids, whether that's the slightly younger Christian, older person that's a younger Christian, all of that. I just love that.
The thing I said Sunday, which I don't know if I said Thursday, Joey, was that I think the number one reason I hear people say they're afraid to talk to their friends about their faith is that they won't be able to answer all their questions.
Yeah.
And I encourage people that saying I don't know is okay. So like have the conversation and it'll be messy and you won't know how to answer their questions. And then go back and research it, get a friend to help you read a book, whatever, and then try to come back.
STR.org.
STR, Stand to Reason.
StandToReason.org.
Yep.
They have lots of answers.
Yep. So I just would encourage people to take the risk and recognize you're commissioned. Go out there and lead and enjoy the mess. And
it goes back to, are you going to accept your commission or are you going to abdicate, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of last week, the week before.
And there's two areas of that too. There's the conquering new territory, and then there's also the sphere of influence you already have. So or sometimes you need to double down on relationships you already have. Sometimes you need to go find new relationships. Probably most of the time you need to do both, but I think that's what I'd also say too.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think, oh, that's only the random stranger at the gas station and not my cousin or something. I don't know. I just that's another
good.
thing probably.
That's good. Good point.
Cool. Well, you concluded on Thursday that the ultimate power to change is found in the grace of Jesus. You also said that a gift of getting older is seeing your strength diminished.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I think it might be applicable to your length of your sermon somehow.
Yes. I'm getting senile.
And then talking about the power of grace, you said, go and make disciples of all the nations. Anything else about your conclusion, or are we concluding at the same location?
Yeah, we're basically wrapping up there. I in the end, decided that the third point was basically the commission, the conclusion. The commission was the conclusion.
So you had no conclusion?
I didn't have a particular wraparound or story conclusion where I tried to summarize it all. I tried to kind of end there. I didn't. I might have summarized.
I guess that works at 55 minutes. You're like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. I actually planned that going in. It wasn't like, oh, no, I've gone 55 minutes. I'll stop here. I mean, it was really just thinking logically.
Well and
sometimes I want to do a whole separate kind of like paragraph concluding the whole thing. And sometimes the third point is the conclusion. It kind of wraps up where everything is going.
I really enjoyed the song pairing. The last song we sang, like as also a continuation of your sermon. I just thought, man, that really did something for me too. Just the like, it talks about there is no other so sure and steady. My hope is held in your hand. When castles crumble and breath is fleeting, upon this rock I will stand. And this anthemic chorus, glory, glory, we have no other king but Jesus, Lord of all. And then that bridge, of course, talking about, in all my sorrows, Jesus is better. In every victory, and than any comforter, Jesus is better. And that song has such a breadth of, like, the experience of life, but this unity of being a people that we are called out with Jesus as our King, and He is better than anything. And that just felt sometimes it it feels really close to what the sermon was talking about. Sometimes not, and this time I just I was really celebrating. Kind of, it felt like this is what we've been talking about this whole time. We have the power to change through Jesus. We are a people called out to do it. So.
Well, and I don't think Joey knew I worked on my Celebrate Recovery lesson on Saturday. And this one sentence was repeated on every single page of my lesson. They flip you around this Celebrate Recovery study Bible. And so, like, all these different pages, I kept reading. The first sentence of the paragraph would be, the power to change comes only through God's grace. Like that sentence repeated over and over and over again. And so I was like, okay, Lord, that was something I needed to hear this week. So
cool. Well, if people are looking for ways to exercise that power, that commission, they can join a serve team. Can't say join a serve team. They can serve on a team. It's a way they can find purpose together. Last week and this week we had serve team signups, and I might say that we didn't have very many this week. So we're expecting next week for you to say, man, I have the power of grace to change things, and one of the things that I'm commissioned to do is serve here. So one of the ways you can find purpose together is serving on a team.
Yes.
Join us this Sunday in the lobby to find out about the different teams here, to sign up for one of them. You've been listening to Sunday Recap, which has been an adventure. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you all later.
You have tiny gnomes on your shirt. I wanted people to know that.
Nobody knows, Dave. Nobody knows.